What do you know about Gary Peacock? Part-time biker, full-time clown. I have been giggling hard at the special silliness of Gary Peacock. So I just stumbled across this saga of Gary versus Pierce. So what happened is, Gary Peacock is a cyclist, and he's chugging along down the road, getting some cardio in, and a young man named Pierce is going to a skate park, and he passes Gary. But it was a little too close for comfort in Gary's mind. So he was enraged. Gary did what any sane man would do. He hunted him down. He stayed on his ass like a hound dog. He smelt blood in the water, so he started really kicking it into turbo and went following Pierce. And eventually, when Pierce parked, Gary came up to the window, got really aggressive with him, started berating him, even yanked on his door a lot. It was like the fucking scene out of Jurassic Park with the T-Rex. And it leads to Gary calling the police. And things don't go the way Gary thought they would when the police arrive at the scene, I'll tell you that much. I don't want to spoil anything.
Yes, sir?
Did you see me?
Pulled off to the side, I did. I have it on dash cam.
Good. You see how close you came to me? You know what the law is?
I did not.
It's 3 feet, asshole.
I was.
No, you weren't.
Say it. Don't spray it, Gary. Man is so upset. He is spitting like an alpaca here. Every word that he gets out is like... He's like ventured to rock bottom from SpongeBob. Did you see me? Asshole? Man's blowing raspberries with his speech.
Okay.
You want to check your dash cam? Go
Yeah,
ahead and
I have
check
a
it.
dash cam.
Check it. What's your name? Last name.
You don't need that.
What's your last name?
You don't need my last name. I don't
got
need
your
an
license
ID.
plate.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to call the police then.
Why? I have it on dash cam. You're
Fine.
weird.
This was a dangerous move from Pierce here to call the Gary Peacock weird. The enforcer of justice. The man whom even the Lord is a little afraid of. So, Gary Peacock is puffing out his chest here. He is literally peacocking here, trying to fucking flex his meat out here, demanding that this guy identify himself to Gary as if he has any ground to stand on there. Nothing happened. If you boil down this situation, it is literally a nothing burger. You're fighting ghosts. You're having a fantasy in your head that's making you upset. You're right to get mad if he was too close. You could shake your fist, be like, oh, pay more attention. That was scary. But at the end of the day, you wipe the sweat from your brow saying, whew, close call. At least I didn't get hit. Then you pull up your big boy britches and you move on like a grown-up. The only thing that can come from this level of road rage, this outrageous level of anger where it has you going out of your way to hunt down the person to confront them directly, is either you get your ass beat or worse, or it escalates the situation to a degree where you can't come back from it and you end up making a fool of yourself, calling the cops, and getting yourself in trouble. There is no good outcomes from road rage like this, and it's a lesson Gary learns the hard way.
Fine.
I'm gonna go skate.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. You're not. You're not going anywhere until the police come.
Dude, stop.
No, you're a fucking...
Dude, literally stop.
No, I'm calling the police and you're not leaving. You're not leaving. You're not leaving.
Bro's got his fucking hands on me and stuff.
Yeah, guy
Why?
won't leave because of the police.
Look at this dude.
I still can't get over how perfect Gary looks for this role. Like, he looks like someone that you would envision, like picture in your head, if you were told that a cyclist was freaking out over nothing at a skate park. Like, he looks like if you tried to draw some kind of quintessential creepy PE coach. So Gary's taking matters into his own hands now, ripping at the guy's door, trying to prevent him from leaving, putting his hands on him to stop him from moving. All because Gary believes that he was going to flee the scene like it was fucking Need for Speed. He was just going to burn rubber and get out of there for fear of the repercussions that Gary could bring, the unholy hellfire that he would rain down. Even though dude wasn't even trying to leave, he was trying to skate. You know, the activity he came there to do. So he wasn't even leaving the scene. Not that there's even a scene here in the first place, just the scene that Gary's making with the conniption that he's having. He was going 10 feet away to skate, which is what he planned to do, man. He wasn't running away.
What are you doing? Why are you so cranky?
I'm calling the police. That's
Dude, why are you so cranky?
No, you're not going anywhere.
Oh my god.
You're not going anywhere.
I don't want to be aggressive with you, dude.
You already are. You pushed into me. I asked you to wait. You didn't wait.
I didn't push into
You did.
you.
How'd you get out of the car?
You yanked me out
Yeah,
the door.
I've got a very aggressive teenager here that almost hit me in the car, and now he won't give me his last name, and now he's trying to leave. G, and he's recording me because he's a jerk.
Watch your fucking mouth, Gary. Calling a guy a jerk? You're going a little too far, man. You're rampaging. You're being rambunctious, and you need to calm down. You're gonna say some things you're gonna regret, Gary, if you keep calling people jerks.
And I want you to come and give this guy a ticket. I'd be willing to testify in court against this guy. He came way too close to me. Huh? He did not hit me. There's a law in Utah that says you have to stay 3 feet from a cyclist. He did not. He just went right next to me. I wouldn't bother pulling over if this guy weren't unsafe. Yes, I'm still on my bicycle. He's here. Gary Peacock, you...
I love that he starts reciting law to the police. I know more than you guys, so you might be missing the problem here. No, I wasn't hit, but he was way too close, violating this law, which I'm gonna have to spit to you guys because you're too fucking stupid to get it, I guess. And I love the way he announces, I'm Gary Peacock. Like, I half expected him to strike like a superhero pose, like the Crimson Chin. That name fits him so well. That is perfect. That's like a name I would make for one of my Dark Souls characters, like fucking Phil Cheeseburger or something. I cannot believe his name is Gary Peacock.
He's just being aggressive and obnoxious. You leave, you're not part of this.
He put his hands on me, I would say, if I were you.
Yeah, there's another individual, and he's just standing there. I'd like to get rid of him. I'm riding a bike. I have more rights than you.
That statement actually goes so hard. I'm riding a bike, I have more rights than you. That shit is like t-shirt level. That is actually fucking hard. Love that. So one of Pierce's friends who he was going to skate there with shows up just to kind of be a witness to this madness. Gary does keep putting his hands on Pierce, so it was good to have a third party just to be sure, you know, make sure things stay civil. And Gary's not too happy about that.
He's just standing here. He's standing there, but I don't feel safe with both of them here.
Friend, he's gonna stay.
He's staying because these two are trying to intimidate me. This guy tried to leave, this guy came, and he's trying to intimidate me.
He's just standing there menacingly. Gary is deeply insecure, I suppose, with this. There's two of them. They must be trying to fucking intimidate me. That's the only explanation. Help! 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 There's two people here and they're looking at me. They're looking at me! Help! Like, there is nothing that's happened. Keep in mind, nothing has happened except for Gary putting his hands on Pierce. That's it. And Pierce isn't the one freaking out.
Are you separate sides of the parties?
Yes.
Okay, if you'll stand over there by those
I'm
cars.
a complaining party.
Fantastic.
Can I tell you what happened?
Fantastic. Will you go stand over there for a second?
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Don't let him leave. You tried to leave already.
Sir, I'm right here. Thank you.
You can just immediately hear how annoyed the officer is to just be here wasting his time with this absolute drivel, this pitiful nonsense. The officer shows up and is already just over Gary's shit. Just the first interaction, he's just like, fantastic, fantastic. Can you just go over there, man? Can you just get the fuck out of here? Can you just go take a hike? Scram. And then as Gary's walking away, he's making sure to give a little backseat gaming here, some advice to the officer. Don't let him leave. And you can see the officer's shadow on the car. He does this. Like, are you serious? He does one of these. And he says, sir.
Later, can I call the district attorney and press charges? Is this
So
press charges over? I know it's a small incident, but...
Well, and here's the thing.
Thank you.
Sign his citation that you were present for it, and then I'm going to issue you one for disorderly conduct as well. So if you'll just hang tight over on the sidewalk over there,
then I won't press charges.
it's too late.
Speaking of pressing charges, Gary, it seems like you're very hungry for charges. How about you get served some from the menu? Do those taste pretty good? The officer hits him with the disorderly conduct charges. So, I cut out quite a bit here, but Gary insists that Pierce's life gets fucked for this, even though nothing has happened, even though Gary himself admits that it's a small incident, but he wants to salt the earth with it. So, he has point blank said that he wanted Pierce to be arrested. If he'd have it his way, he'd go to jail, was his words. And the officer shows up and, well, that's not exactly something that's going to be happening here because Pierce recorded it. So the officer gets to see that Gary was the instigator, the aggressor, and pretty much everything that had happened was because of Gary, this whole incident. So,
Why am I getting, for what?
Because you were aggressive to him.
Yes, I was, but he was trying to leave.
Okay, go wait over there. I'll explain it here in a second.
Can't we just...
Nope.
Oh, come on, man. I was the victim here.
All right, watch out. We can go a different way, and you can be arrested for disorderly conduct. That's an arrestable offense.
What kind of disorderly conduct is it?
You opened his door 3 times. Okay? He doesn't have to get out of his car for you. He doesn't have to identify for you. You are not law enforcement.
You're right, officer. He's something more than law enforcement. He outranks you. This is Gary fucking Peacock, super cyclist. My voice cracked even saying his name because I'm not worthy. His name commands too much power and too much respect, damn it.
You don't get to come out here and enforce things. You call us and let us do it.
Okay.
He didn't say he was going to leave in his vehicle. He's like, I'm here to skate. I'm going to go skate. He didn't believe he did anything wrong. He's going to provide me the dash cam.
Okay.
He showed me the recording, and you were the aggressive one, not him.
Yes, because he...
Yes, and you don't get to be aggressive with people like that.
Okay.
That's disorderly. That's why you are getting a citation as well.
Why is it too late? What does it mean? What does it mean, disorderly? Do I have to go to court for this? You're kidding me.
Yeah. You were adamant that this, and you were the one causing the stir here.
What if I apologize?
It's too late. I've already seen the evidence. I am obligated.
Oh, come on, man.
Okay?
Whoa. Let's not be too hasty here. A sorry from Gary Peacock? That's worth more than gold. Let's not get carried away. So you can see that the tables have turned. The shoe's on the other foot now. And it is just so satisfying. It's impossible not to smile watching his tough guy act fall to pieces. That bravado that he marched up there with, thinking that he was in the right and the Pierce was an aggressive asshole, this and that, when really, it turns out he was the aggressive asshole the whole time, and now his behaviors got him in some hot water with this citation of disorderly conduct. Now, it is worth mentioning, Pierce was also issued a citation for passing too close to a biker, but that was dropped. So that seems like something the officer did just to try and get this, moved on. That didn't stick. However, the disorderly conduct one, well, that one kind of did. Gary Peacock was forced to give a little half-assed apology. I think he also got fined. I'm not exactly sure. I saw 2 conflicting reports on that. But regardless of what the actual outcome is there, just watching this was a joy. So I had to share this. It had me giggling. That's the story of Gary Peacock. That's about it. See ya. People are more gullible now than they ever have been in the history of this species. That is just a fact. People are throwing away any level of thinking and rationality just to believe in the most outlandish garbage imaginable and just falling victim to every scam you could ever possibly drum up. 3 days ago, the stupid man's genius, Terrence Howard, went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe Rogan only piped up for 13 minutes out of this 3-hour Arkham Asylum debriefing. That's 13 minutes worth of speaking from Rogan here. The rest was Terrence Howard brainwashing idiots into thinking that he's some kind of enlightened genius. For almost a decade now, Terrence Howard has gone on this international mission to convince the world that teriology is the future. That's what he calls his logic language. Teriology. Let that just marinate in your noodles up here for a second. You're believing in a guy who's fucking preaching about teriology. So, there already exists so many people that have broken down everything Terrence Howard is wrong about in the teriology logic language system. I'm just going to focus on his biggest one. 1 times 1 equals 2. That is something that he has built his entire fucking identity around when it comes to his math. And for the first 9 years of this one-man traveling circus, everyone laughed at him because it's so outrageous. If we followed teriology, cars, phones, planes, medicine, literally everything that is keeping you alive right now would not exist because his logic language is fundamentally wrong. It's not up for interpretation. He is provably wrong in every possible measurement. And I want to dive into this deeply because so many people are thinking that he is correct. They are throating his cock and balls, literally slobbering all over his meat because he went on Rogan and used words they didn't understand. So since they didn't understand the words, they took it as a sign that this guy's the fucking chosen one when it comes to math. I'm not even mad at Terrence Howard, I want to make that clear. I'm mad that a lot of people think Terrence Howard is right. I am more mad at the gullibility of people to just take this at face value without doing any level of thinking for themselves. It's so easy now for people to just throw away their own thoughts and just let people tell them what they should believe in. They're like, yep, that sounds right. I want to believe in that, so I will. It's so fucking frustrating because that sets us so far back. Now, before I even dive deep into this rabbit hole, I want to tackle his biggest one that he has always put on the boxing gloves and fought for the honor of, which is 1 times 1 equaling 2. He even made his own YouTube video here explaining how 1 times 1 equals 2, and admittedly, if you set aside everything that he's wrong about, he's still fucking wrong. He doesn't even come close to accidentally tickling something correct. He is fishing around in the dark looking for a urinal to piss on, but he keeps pissing on the floor because he can't find it. He doesn't decide to just turn the lights on. He wants to live in this absolute, void of logic. I am going to demonstrate why 1 times 1 can never equal 2. A 3rd grader could do this, and I'm going to break it down in a way that no matter how stupid you are, and no matter how much you want to believe in this concept, it can't work. In no dimension in the multiverse could this ever be a real possibility. So when you're saying times, when you're using multiplication here, you're talking about the groups of something. So one group of 1 is 1, but let's get more physical with it. And I'm going to do it using a physical object here. We're going to get real, kinetic with it. And I'm going to use the GamerSupps Moist Waifu Cup. So this is me on the cup, big titty anime girl. It's available at gamersupps.gg. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's available for the next 2 weeks. This just seemed like a natural segue into mentioning that while I demonstrate this. Now let's put this concept into practice in a real-world scenario. You catch me at the grocery store, you say, "Pardon me, Charles, looking extraordinarily breedable as ever today. I have this box of moist GamerSupps waifu cups. Come take a peek." And I march on over and I say, "By Jove, look at that. There is a single moist waifu shaker cup in that box. There is one box with one moist GamerSupps cup in it. One box with one cup. I pick that up, I would have one shaker cup. 1 times 1 equals 1. That's just how it works. There's not any scenario where all of a sudden this waifu shaker cup is going to start budding like it's fucking SpongeBob and I'll end up with 2 somehow. That's not how it works. I have one box that has one cup in it. You come up to me again, this time it's at a Sam Ash music store, I'm fucking blowing away at a trumpet. You say, "Charles, check out these moist GamerSupps waifu shaker cups I have in these boxes." I say, "Oh, how many cups are per box?" You say, "There's 2 waifu shaker cups in these boxes," and I have 2 boxes. 2 boxes of 2 waifu shaker cups, that's 4 total waifu shaker cups. 2 times 2. It's, this shouldn't be a hard thing for people to grasp. These aren't hard to understand, but when you have someone like Terrence Howard preaching just completely incorrect things, it's able to mislead people who want to believe in something different, that want to have this big paradigm shift in mathematics, which I don't really get. Why do you want mathematics to change? The only reason you're alive right now is because of that. You would have likely already been mauled by a bear, died from an infection, died from dysentery, wouldn't have made it past the Oregon Trail, way before you even made it to whatever your current age is, if we didn't have math. We wouldn't be where we are today. You wouldn't be watching this. You would likely be out there hunting and gathering and probably dying in the process. There is nothing that changes about this kind of concept when it comes to math. Now, it's important to note, I'm not a mathematician. That's something Terrence Howard and I have in common. But I think if I was a mathematician, most of you would trust me less. You'd think I'd been indoctrinated by big math or something to keep the genius revolutionaries like Terrence Howard down when it comes to these innovative concepts of new math. No, an actual child could prove why 1 times 1 will always equal 1, and never 2. It doesn't take a genius to prove that Terrence Howard is wrong. It takes an ordinary person using their own brain a little bit, and Terrence Howard is hoping that you're not one of those people that think for themselves. For some reason, we've entered the age where people don't trust experts anymore. The individuals that have dedicated their lives to a certain subject like math now have the most scrutiny from the average ordinary person, thinking that they're wrong and evil. There must be like a puppet master behind the scenes controlling the experts. Instead, the average person would rather put their faith in someone that has never studied math and never done anything properly in the subject that they're preaching about, like Terrence Howard. He has dedicated his life to being wrong. Meanwhile, the experts that just get fucking torched by people that don't understand math have an entire history of inventions to show for it that these people are literally using to criticize them. These inventions that they take for granted is the product of that math, not Terrence Howard's teriology math. If teriology was the correct mathematics, where are those drones that he was talking about for Uganda? Where is all of the potential huge breakthroughs using teriology? Where are those inventions? Now, over a year ago, I did make a video on Terrence Howard going over some of his more ridiculous and embarrassing moments. I'm not going to really harp on those here because a lot of people went from Joe Rogan to that video and said that I was just attacking him on like a personal level or something, which I really wasn't. I was just explaining why a lot of this is so silly and I was making fun of it. As everyone used to do back when we used to think for ourselves instead of just be spoon-fed all of our opinions. So, what I did talk about in that video is something I'm going to briefly mention though. He tried to scam all of Uganda by promising them these drones that literally just don't work. I'm just going to play you a clip from that again to remind you that Terrence Howard uses this math in pretty nefarious ways from time to time, like in the case with Uganda drones from the hydrogen proton geometry.
Was there for 2 years until I saw that there was an inconsistency with the math there. And so I went out to explore a new way of understanding how the universe works, and I was able to define the grand unified field equation they've been looking for and put it into geometry.
Once again, just a friendly reminder, there is nothing more consistent than 1 times 1 equals 1. To represent it one more time, I have one box with one waifu cup in it. 1 times 1. The total waifu cups is 1. One box has one of these in there. There is one of these in total.
And then with that geometry, I was able to put props on that. And what I'm saying is now we have invented a new form of flight that I would like to bring here to Uganda to replace the drones, to replace the helicopters, to replace the planes. This is the geometry of hydrogen. Of hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
This is the proton itself. So any bond that hydrogen can make, our linchpins are able to make.
It's been 2 years since this, and it doesn't seem like Uganda's any closer to having those Terrence Howard promised hydrogen proton geometry new flight machines that reinvent flight as we know it. But maybe it's just a project that takes a long time. Maybe he's at Area 51 right now cooking that shit up with the aliens. Who's to say? There's just no updates on it. So I'm excited to see Terrence Howard's update on these hydrogen proton geometry flying machines. But let's be fair here. Let's take a peek at both sides. Terrence Howard actually did publish something trying to prove that 1 times 1 equals 2 and that the world of science and math is wrong. You can read through the whole paper yourself if you'd like, and hopefully you'd come to the obvious conclusion that he is still incorrect in everything that he's breaking down here. He's using all these incredible leaps in logic to get to his conclusion. What I want to highlight, though, is in his own paper here, he has a whole section dedicated to the Anunnaki Sky People. Some call them the Anunnaki, the Sky People, whoever they were that gave naive generations some 6,000 years ago a multiplication table and a flat view of universal geometry. They gave that poor, misguided people a false axiom upon which to build their world. In a paper that's supposed to all be about logic and math, where the fuck did the Anunnaki Sky People come from here like a jump scare? What in the world? That should immediately trigger your bullshit alarms. That is unhinged to include in this. Like, it showcases that he fundamentally doesn't even understand where math comes from in the first place. He makes it seem like math is something that was given to us. Math is not an invention. Math is a discovery. It's something we learned. It's not something that we created based upon an Anunnaki Sky People gift. A ruse from the Anunnaki. Also, I love how he can just slide in whatever nonsense he wants without any type of citation or proof behind it. Oh yeah, this is all based upon what the Anunnaki gave us 6,000 years ago. Well, trust me, I know, I was there actually. I saw it. Terrence Howard, I'm immortal. I saw it. I was actually there during the trade of the Anunnaki geometry and the naive generation 6,000 years ago. That's how. That's my proof. That's my evidence. Like, people just take what he says and just run with it. Like, oh, that's great. And like, they ignore it. Like on Joe Rogan, he had a whole section dedicated to how he can remember his birth.
I was inside.
That is legitimately not possible. There were some doctors that weighed in on this because a lot of people were like, this is incredible. He truly is like this super genius. He even remembers being in his mom's womb. You can't. You actually can't. You don't even start storing memories in your brain at those stages because it is still developing. So they're not fully developed. Thus, those parts that are responsible for memory storage and memory retrieval aren't there yet. You can't. And you certainly wouldn't be able to recall them. Now, a couple doctors did say that in very rare cases, you can recall some feelings, which is why if you had like a traumatic birth, that could play a role in your life later on. Like, you do form memories as a baby, but due to infantile amnesia, you can't recall them. So the memories you're forming are things like your mother's face, shit like that. As a baby, you do form those memories. You can recall your mom's face, but as you grow up, you are never going to remember those moments. You can't. Except in like extraordinarily rare cases, which don't have a ton of documentation surrounding or proof around, but there are a couple of cases where people do claim that they can. But in Terrence Howard's case, not even those extraordinary circumstances go as far as him, where he's remembering in the womb and saying to himself, don't forget, and then giving a name to his hand. That's just ridiculous. And then he says that the proof of this on Rogan is that when his wife was pregnant, he'd shine a light on her belly and then play music. And he did that for like a week, and then he stopped shining that light and playing the music, and then the baby's hand pushed on his mother's stomach. That was his proof that Terrence Howard remembered everything in his mom's womb. Once again, a complete misunderstanding of the things that he's fucking talking about with it. And there were a lot of people that said like, oh, that was a really weird section, but he was right about everything else. Why are we ignoring things like that? That is not something you should ignore. That is very clearly a red flag in the logic and the person behind the logic. It's ridiculous. Like, they're like, oh, no, he was definitely weird about the whole remembering being in the womb nonsense. But he was totally right about gravity not being real. Like, disproving gravity, he fucking nailed. And 1 × 1 = 2, absolutely on the money with it. Been saying it for years. It's so ridiculous. People just want to believe in the most, like, I don't even know the right word for it. The most over-the-top special ideas just to feel like they're smarter than everyone else. At least that's the impression I get. Because there is no way you would ever logically reach these conclusions unless you just wanted to believe Terrence Howard because it's fun and it makes you feel special. That's the only way. Because if you ever try and employ any of these in the real world, they fall on their fucking face. Again, 1 × 1 never equals 2. So if you ever try and use any of the teriology in your day-to-day life, it's not going to work. You're going to be left high and dry with your dick in your hand. It's not going to function. It can't. It doesn't. And for some reason, we are now in this age where people are just like, it doesn't matter. He's probably still right. Like, what the fuck? It's so stupid and frustrating. It really is. Like, again, I'm not even mad at Terrence Howard. Like, it's not a crime to be dumb. And it's not wrong to, like, pursue things outside of the already established, mainstream belief system. I think that's extremely important to a healthy society, always challenging the things that you're given. But this is the exact opposite. People aren't challenging what Terrence Howard is feeding them. They're just accepting it with a fucking smile on their face and not asking any questions. Terrence Howard pursuing this is not the biggest deal in the world to me. In fact, I do think in a lot of cases that can be really helpful. If someone goes out and challenges like some really well-established theories or whatever, like, let's see. It's always important. But he has come back with incorrect conclusions and still preaches about how everyone else is wrong, without ever demonstrating why he's right. He has nothing to show for his teriology. No creations, no inventions, nothing. So it should immediately right there stop for him and be like, okay, you know what? This was, a fruitless endeavor. I didn't get anything out of this. Maybe the math that we have is correct and is consistent because look at all we have to show for it. Look at all of this around us. We're surrounded by the product of mathematic breakthroughs. And Terrence Howard's math has nothing like that. So it should have come back like, okay, it was worth a try, didn't happen, we move on. And then he could have gone into different avenues to pursue more knowledge or more discoveries, but he hasn't. He has locked himself down to something that is completely false, and he's taking as many people with him as he can. And I think that shit sucks. People need to stop just taking in other people's perspectives as their own and start actually just thinking for themselves and putting into practice the things that they're being told to see if they make sense and if they're right. That's it. I mean, that's really about it. I'm not going to keep droning on about this. It's just so fucking frustrating. That's it. See ya. Everyone seems to be constantly scrambling in a frenzy for social media interaction or views, and in the words of a great douchebag, attention is the most valuable currency. And right now, people are eating each other alive for it. Like, even just recently, we saw the Stanley Cup craze, where people were going feral, absolutely ballistic, like peeling flesh from bone to get their hands on a new limited edition Stanley Cup so they could go home and film a TikTok for it for a couple updoots and brownie points online to let people know that they're part of the cool trend. And as this has continued to be the focal point for our species, this internet attention, the pursuit of it has gotten really depraved. Over the last few years in particular, on YouTube specifically, we have seen so many people try some extremely dangerous things in order to stand out from the crowd, whether it's really dangerous or cruel pranks, people getting themselves shot for the sake of their content, or getting themselves even killed for the sake of trying to produce content that'll get a lot of eyes on it. Like, shit, it's in streams too. Half of Kick right now is just the most hateful garbage from people trying to be incendiary and get themselves beat up in a fight. Just like, watch me get my ass beat, episode 500 with Jack Doherty. And it's there because it's supposed to be shocking. And it's just an awful direction, but that's kind of the content pill society has taken recently. And that brings me to what I want to talk about today. My friends and I like to joke around with this concept, and sometimes we'll brainstorm some of the most degenerate video ideas imaginable. Ideas we'll never actually do. But sometimes we'll cook up something so foul that it becomes a really tasty treat to play around with as like an idea. So I wanted to take you into the kitchen today and show you this secret recipe for a particular formula that we thought was just entertainingly awful. This is perhaps one of the worst ideas we've ever had for a video, and I just have to share it because I do think about it from time to time. Not as a piece of content that should ever be made by any sane human being on the planet, but just as something that is so fucked up that I can't help but giggle at the absurdity of it. Would you ever donate sperm? Okay, this is another idea I think we'll never actually do, but it's an idea we tossed around as a joke that I think about from time to time. I don't know if I ever said this on stream. It's a diabolical idea. I want to preface by saying that. If all of us donated sperm, and when you donate sperm, there's like a whole process you have to go through to make sure you're like okay to do that, and that people would choose your sperm and all of it. Like there's a whole bunch of bells and whistles and hoops to jump through for it. You can't just go there and be dumping DNA willy-nilly. But we thought it'd be really fun if we went as a group to do that, and someone uses our sperm. I think you get notified if it gets chosen, like if someone's using your load. And we would make a video checking in on the families that used our sperm in 18 years and see who had the most successful child. To see whose sperm was like the mightiest and produced the best offspring. But it's kind of a fucked up thing to do. But as a concept, it's like, that's kind of fire. Like, no, my kid's actually the best. Look at this. You know, he just graduated high school, straight A's, and he's got a scholarship to USC. It's like, damn, no, my kid's got a crippling heroin addiction. Shit, I'm out of the race. Darn. Like, conceptually, it's a banger. But morally, well, there's a lot of gray area to work with there. It'd be an 18-year-long content investment. And then you meet your child and you have to break the news to him like, look, bud, you were just content. I conceived you on this upload date for this purpose. Thank you for winning me the competition. The 23andMe would go crazy, though. Hey, that whole thing would go crazy. The winning child gets the ad revenue. Yeah. But just think about, you can make a whole slew of videos out of that. You can make like, you know how people do those time lapses of I took a picture of myself every day for 6 years or whatever? We do a time lapse of like our children from a distance. The parents keep us updated on their activity. And we have like after 18 years, this beautiful montage of our child growing up. And then we get to see who wins in the end. That's like a whole season's worth of activity. Yours would definitely win. I don't think so. I think if the whole crew gave their semen, and let's say we actually pulled the trigger on this downright evil idea, I think I would probably not win. My genes aren't great. I'm 5'6". I had terrible mentality growing up. Acne out the wazoo. Like, I think my kid would probably not be super happy. I think of our group, Chase would win. Chase he is a specimen. Chase is like one of the most gifted athletes without ever trying. Anything he does that even remotely resembles athleticism, he crushes. And he is naturally good at everything he does. Literally everything Chase does, he is incredible at. I think Chase would produce a superstar. Yeah, but you're smart. Chase is so much smarter than me. Chase blows me out of the water. Like, out of our group, I'm probably the fucking dumbest too, so I don't have anything working in my favor. I would lose this competition right away. Bro, I'd give birth to like another fucking Jack Doherty. They'd be miserable. I'd be ashamed. Meanwhile, Chase is gonna have like an actual hero, a champion. There's actually a documentary that ran for 50 years and was pretty much this concept. They followed a group of children from elementary school until they were elderly and would check in every 7 years or so. You slowly saw them devolve into druggies over time. Well, that made me really sad. It was like really wholesome until the last sentence. Well, hopefully hopefully our idea wouldn't go like that. Not that we're ever doing it. But that would be a very sad ending. If your kid's a speedrunner, do you automatically win? No, absolutely not. It was illegal and Dateline covered it. The study that he was referencing, whatever that was. Yeah, I'd never even heard of that. What do you consider an early loss? If we did this? Well, I don't think you'd have an early loss unless the kid dies. Like, I don't think there's a disqualification. Or I guess if they get thrown in jail. Those would be like the only two things that would be an early disqualification, I think. Man, that'd be fucking tragic, though. Imagine we're doing our, like, I don't know, quarterly check-in on our child. And we learn that they've either been jailed for some heinous crime or dead. That'd be the worst fucking update to that video. Like, damn, guys, I lost. My kid shed the mortal coil. How are your kids doing? It'd be fucking terrible. In Germany, there was a real pilot for a TV show about a sperm race where 12 contestants donate their jizz and see which is the quickest one to reach an egg. The winner would receive a Porsche. That's too deep into the content pill. You know, it is actually an evil idea, but it's one I think about from time to time as like the craziest idea that I think we've ever just joked around about. Make your kids play League all day, leveling accounts, and whenever they get an account to level 30, they get their meal. That's just torture. Ours is more humane than yours. Fucking maniac over here. Jesus Christ. Would you ever want to have kids? I talked about this a little bit on stream. I don't have any plans of that anytime soon. I legitimately think if I had a kid, I'd feel bad. My kid would undoubtedly be short. I don't think somehow my father's tall genes skipped my generation and the next one would get it. So my kid's going to be around my height, 5'6", probably, unless the woman is super tall. So I feel like I'd feel bad for him because it's not easy, especially with social media. Constantly getting picked apart for every small insecurity or weakness you could ever imagine for yourself. And short is like the most commonly accepted one that's still fine. Like no one bats an eye when you're insulting someone for being short. So I feel like the kid would need a very strong chin, and there's just a good chance he wouldn't have it. If I ever wanted a kid, I'd probably adopt. There's so many kids without a home right now. There's an overabundance of kids that don't have a home. Is your mom short, or did you get unlucky? My mom's short, my dad's super tall. And I got the height aspect from my mom. Mom's 5'2", dad's 6'5". So I went closer to my mom. I didn't even split the middle. The middle would have been around like 5'8", 5'9". It's sad you think that just get your height. I'm fine with it. I can handle it. But not everyone can. There's a real thing called short man syndrome. Like, legitimately, it is a thing. I know Thanksgiving's right around the corner, but I'm too excited. By golly, I tell ya, I can't wait, so I'm serving up the turkey early. So I hope you've brought your appetite, because here comes the choo-choo train open wide. I'm feeding you something very wacky today. This week, 2 Arizona school teachers lost their jobs after some of their OnlyFans content they were producing leaked. And it wasn't so much the existence of the OnlyFans itself, it was more so the fact that some of that content was filmed in the classroom that the woman teaches at. Her name is Samantha, and she was an 8th grade science teacher by day, but by night, she was a penis professor. And she filmed videos with her husband where he would just fuck her in the classroom that she teaches at, just reducing a holy dojo of education to a simple cum dumpster. Now, in response to all of this blowing up, she's come forward with another video, but this time she's not getting her ass spread open, she's spreading her side of the situation. So, she has this video that explains why she did all of this, as well as going over how everything unfolded, and I'd like to share that with you all, as well as going a bit deeper about the situation, because it's maybe even a bit more than wacky. This is starting to teeter on the edge of being pure silliness, even, I dare say.
I created content at the beginning of the summer in order to earn extra money on the side to help pay for our basic necessities that our salaries were no longer meeting.
So she starts by explaining that teacher salary, especially in Arizona, is dog shit. And you'll get no argument from me there. Teachers get paid in popsicle sticks, basically. I think their salary is laughable compared to the work they're expected to do and how miserable the job can be. You make more money boosting League of Legends accounts every other weekend than you do as a full-time teacher. It's fucking ridiculous. I think it's just sad. And her husband is also a teacher, so a 2-teacher salary isn't exactly like hitting the jackpot. That's not an infinite money cheat code or anything. So she says that her and her husband started to struggle with being able to meet the basic requirements for their family and their children, which is why she looked for alternative income methods and chose OnlyFans. But then the question still exists of why do it in the fucking classroom that you teach your students at? It makes no sense whatsoever.
I chose an anonymous name as well as blocking the entire state of Arizona on my OnlyFans so that it wasn't accessible to anyone living in the state.
I didn't even know this was something you could do. I had no idea our technology was this advanced where you could just ban an entire state from checking out your OnlyFans. It makes sense that she tried this approach here, so that way no one in the immediate area would ever find it, but clearly something went awry. The technology must not be bulletproof because they still found it, and rather easily, it seems. Just listen to this. One student reportedly told his mother that his teacher was spread over his desk. What a crazy conversation that must have been. Just picture yourself being that kid. You're hanging out, sipping your apple juice, just a normal 8th grade day, and a friend of yours sends you a link to a video your teacher filmed and says, "Isn't that your science teacher, Miss Samantha?" So you click it, you open it, and there it is. No secrets left. Your teacher is being spread like butter on toast, and it's on your desk. You just sit there thinking to yourself, oh man, I did algebra on that desk. And then imagine going into school on Monday and coming right up to that desk, like you'd have nothing but like these war flashbacks, these visions of cheeks being clapped on your desk as a tear streams down your face. I'm also curious how many desks she was fucked on top of, because in another report someone said, "That was my friend's daughter's desk, and she is mortified over the situation." It really seems like no desk was safe in this situation here. And I have to wonder, did they like clean up after themselves or anything? Because they didn't set it up like it was a scene out of Dexter where he puts up like all of the, sterile environment, like surgery operating room kind of shit. They just went in there raw and like in the actual classroom and fucked. Did they at least bring Clorox and wipe off the desks when they were done using it? Or did students then go into that classroom after the weekend and wonder why their desks smelt like asshole? This whole thing just doesn't make any sense. But you know what does make sense? How great my G Fuel flavor is. Divine Peach. Anyone that's tried it has had their lives improved for the better, I have no doubt about that. And now I'm happy to report that the cans are here and they're a GNC exclusive right now for stores. So if you want to find your closest GNC, there's a link in the description for that to pick up a can of Divine Peach. Now I've mentioned this on stream, but I'd like to mention it here as well. The caffeine content on my flavor is 140 milligrams as opposed to the standard 300 milligrams for other cans. And I'm really happy about that because that's the caffeine that I prefer. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as well. And there's also a sweepstakes going on right now for anyone who buys a can and takes a selfie of themselves dressed as me. You stand to win a G Fuel mini fridge or a 12-pack of Divine Peach.
The video that was created and advertised was made after contract hours on the weekend. No minors were ever present or involved in the videos.
I don't think anyone was ever trying to make the accusation that minors were present or somehow involved in the content, because that would be a whole different ballgame. This would be an entirely different conversation. That would be a massive, massive, massive crime. Now, what people are saying is, even though minors weren't present, the fact that you're using their space for adult content is a problem. Obviously. So although there's no kids there, like Junior's not knocking on the door to the classroom, Miss Samantha, I've got my extra credit homework. Oh, jeepers! Like, even though there's no kids actually there, the fact that you're fucking in their playground is an issue. You can't just go to a kid's space and film this kind of content. It's not okay. You can't just, like, venture on over to Chuck E. Cheese and get your back blown out in the ball pit, film it, and expect nothing to come from it, expect it to be all honky-dory. And again, why did you want to use the kids' space for your porn? Why? It's not like that was your only option. You could have done your OnlyFans anywhere else, like at home. Why did you take it and film fucking porn in the space that you teach children? It is so fucked up and weird. And also, I'm sure all of you have realized this by now, but after school hours and on weekend doesn't necessarily mean there's no kids on the campus. I remember growing up, there were always club activities and shit that would go on weekends. So it was still very possible that there were kids in the nearby vicinity. It doesn't mean that there was no kids ever even close to their situation. It just, luckily, none of the kids ever, like, walked in on this shit. The whole video also isn't helped by the fact that she's clearly reading something she wrote in Microsoft Word and is trying to, like, keep up with it, so she'll take these long pauses to scroll, and you can see sometimes she loses her place in the document. So it also comes across as very insincere, since she is blatantly just reading it very monotone from her monitor. So I don't think that helped anything that she was saying here, to be honest.
I am already paying the consequence by losing my teaching certificate, as well as losing the job that I loved most. I thoroughly enjoyed working with my coworkers, teaching my students science, and it brought joy to me every day. Looking back at the situation, I wholly regret creating the video in the classroom after school hours. But I felt trapped in my financial situation, and I felt this was the only way that my family would be able to survive.
Really? This was the only way, the only option? Having your husband give you the Big McThankies from McSpankies in the classroom you are a teacher of. That's the only way your family could survive? How? And why couldn't you just film yourself getting fucked by him at your house? In the safety and comfort of your own house, in private, away from everyone else, and certainly away from the area that kids go to learn. Jesus Christ, if the whole idea was to sell a fantasy to perverts about a school teacher being fucked on the job or whatever, why not just set that up at your house? Just get a little desk, a TI-85 calculator, and a ruler, and then still have your husband give you the business there, away from actual schools. Like, it just seems like a no-brainer. So yeah, overall, a pretty wild and wacky situation. Again, I do understand teachers do not get a fair salary. Their pay is pathetic for what they do, and how important teachers are. They're, like, probably one of the most important jobs, and yet they make no money from it, basically. So I do understand the financial struggle, but that doesn't excuse what Samantha and her husband did here. All of their actions fucking in the classroom that they teach kids at is despicable and sick. So it's no excuse for their actions, but I do understand that the teacher salary is terrible. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Well, in the original Iron Man, he was set up to be War Machine. So Terrence Howard is a very popular actor. He's been in a lot of big things, but the one most people know him for is his role in Iron Man. He got replaced by Don Cheadle because Terrence said he was really unhappy that he wasn't making as much money as Robert Downey Jr. And there's so much to go in here. This is an onion with many layers. Terrence Howard also believes that he has discovered and created his own logic language, which he calls teriology. He has spent the better part of, I think, about 7 or 8 years trying to mathematically prove that 1 times 1 equals 2 and that 0 doesn't exist. Didn't he say people watched Iron Man because of him? Yeah, he credits Iron Man's success to his role. Yeah, this is the 1 times 1 equals 2 guy. But I always knew about that shit, but I didn't know that wasn't the end of it. So I was reading some of the comments here and getting as much information. I'm going to show you the scam that he's trying to run right now in a minute. But I was reading so much about him and like going through this rabbit hole. And this is from one of his books, apparently. I haven't read the whole book, but I'm assuming it's an excerpt because it has to go with his idea that 0 isn't real. So, where is it? Here. I made that statement, there's no such thing as 0. He looked at me with a puzzled look upon his face, and the professor said, let's say you had an apple, and I had an apple, and you gave me your apple. How many apples do you have? I said, I have 2 apples. He said, you don't understand, you gave me your apple. I said, no, you don't understand. Actual, I'm 14 and this is deep shit. As long as you are still inside this universe, whatever you have, I have. Because everything in this universe is connected to everything else. Even if you could take my apple and place it into an adjacent universe, I would still have 2 apples because as long as the universe is touching this universe, then everything in that universe is still connected to and influenced by every single atom in this universe. Therefore, my giving you my apple is paramount to me transferring my apple from my left to my right hand because all things are one. So using his own logic language here, he should have no right to be whining about not getting paid as much as Robert Downey Jr. because basically Robert Downey Jr.'s money is his money. That's the argument he makes here. The man is a walking contradiction of his own dog shit logic. Okay, but that was years ago. What? No, he still does this. What? Look, this is from 2 days ago.
Was there for 2 years until I saw that there was an inconsistency
with the math.
There.
Yep.
And so I went out to explore
1 times 1 equals 2
of understanding how the universe works, and I was able to define the grand unified field equation they've been looking for and put it into geometry. And then with that geometry, I was able to
he's done it
on that. And what I'm saying is now we have invented a new form of flight that I would like to bring here to Uganda to replace the drones, to replace the helicopters, to replace the planes in which to build this. Now, this is the geometry of hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Of hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
This is the proton itself. So any bond that hydrogen can make, our linchpins are able to make. So we're talking about unlimited bonding, unlimited predictable
it's like an anime.
Structures, supersymmetry. And
so many buzzwords.
The linchpins are now able to behave as a swarm, as a colony that can defend a nation, that can harvest food, that can remove plastics from the ocean, that
can do anything, can fuck your own wife.
Uganda and the people of Uganda an opportunity without having to have our young men lose their lives.
All thanks to the hydrogen linchpin bonding geometry that he was able to discover. See, I don't know what you're talking about, but that was years ago. He still believes this and does this actively. This was 3 days ago at a conference, trying to sell them on a scam. And this was back when I first found him. He published a paper on 1 times 1 equals 2. And he posted it on Twitter to get laughed at. Oh, another really interesting thing. This one's more sad than interesting, honestly. Terrence Howard, when he was a child, witnessed his dad stab a guy to death at a mall during a Santa Claus showing. They called it the Santa line slaying. I had no idea, but I learned this yesterday. When Terrence Howard was a child, him and his father were in line to sit on Santa's lap, and his dad got into an altercation with another guy. I think his name was Jack Fitzpatrick. They started arguing. Jack Fitzpatrick eventually pushed Terrence Howard's dad against a wall, and then they got broken up, and then Terrence's dad got some sharp object. No one knows whether it was a knife or if someone gave him something or whatever, because there was apparently a story about how a bystander gave him a nail filer to fight back, and he took the sharp object and stabbed him a lot, and he died. And it's called the Santa line slaying. And Terrence Howard is so shameless that he went on Oprah's show and told a complete fabrication of the events that happened, so much so that Terrence Howard's own dad came out and basically just called him a lying clout chaser. Why would you stab someone who you just met? You make it sound like it was at Thanksgiving or something. They got into an argument, and apparently both parties were at fault. They both got rowdy, but Terrence Howard's dad took it much further than the other guy, clearly, and stabbed him to death. All over cutting in line during a Santa Claus event at a mall. Oh, this is also a really cool quote that people always give thanks for. If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. 1 times 1 equals 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1. But we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. Fucking poetry, man. That's so deep. This man is traveling through dimensions with this advanced mathematics. That paragraph would fool 60% of Americans into thinking it's accurate. No, you're actually wrong. So, and I understand, like, Americans super dumb, and I've been on Twitter, so I think everyone's kind of fucking dumb to some level. But even Terryology, nobody besides Terry believes in. So Terrence Howard, like I said, has spent the better part of like 7 years trying to prove his logic language, 1 times 1 equals 2, 0 doesn't exist, all these things. And it's called Terryology. And I believe he even patented it. Nobody, not even his most brainwashed fans, believe in it. They still laugh at him for it, to this day. I really want to find the tweet, though, because in his own paper that he published to prove 1 times 1 equals 2, he put in an entire section of fan fiction about the Sky People, the Anunnaki that once indoctrinated us into believing 1 times 1 equals 1, or something, whatever the fuck it was. I need to find that tweet. It was somewhere in these comments. So this is his paper on 1 times 1 equals 2. And in this section right here, he starts talking about the Anunnaki Sky People in his own, like, actual published paper to try and debunk incorrect mathematics. Some call them the Anunnaki, the Sky People, whomever they were that gave that naive generation some 6,000 years ago a multiplication table and a flat view of universal geometry. They gave that poor misguided people a false axiom upon which to build their world. A false axiom that would behave almost as a bumper for our infantile-like species. A tutor, as it were. A false axiom that would allow for a measure of growth and productivity for that civilization, but would inevitably lead to failure and its inevitable collapse. Unfortunately, the later generations would eventually come to inherit this once thriving Mediterranean metropolis that includes, and not so lucky, entire world. Now for the last 5,000 or plus years, our ancestors enslaved our thinking with that dogma for generations upon generations, leading down to our great-grandparents, and who, in like manner, indoctrinated their children, who in turn would help the newly formed system called tradition to propagate this false truth to the rest of the world. This is a paper he published to try and prove 1 times 1 equals 2. And that is in the paper. Holy fuck, this guy is based. I'm a Terryologist now. Hey, man. Nothing but respect to all the Terryologists out there. He says that 0 doesn't exist. I know. I was just talking about that. He believes that 0 can't exist because all of our universes touch each other, so everything is 1. Which, again, this ties into the idea. If Terrence really believes that, why not just give away all of his money? Because it'd still be his money. He'd still have his money by his own logic. Just give it to everyone who commented on this Twitter post. Give it to the Terryologists. 100% this is because of a bad acid trip. It's super possible, but I actually think it's probably rooted in something much sadder. Like I mentioned, he watched his dad murder a man in line for Santa Claus. Like, that's a traumatizing thing. I think from the get-go, this guy was just kind of fucked. Hashtag proof. Was that to me? It's a very well documented thing here. It's called the Santa line slang. Happened in 1971, I think. Yeah, 1971. Jack Fitzpatrick and I believe his dad's name is Tyrone Howard. Yeah, Tyrone Howard. That's a cool origin story. Yeah, I don't know about cool necessarily. But it actually does sound like an origin story out of a comic book. And then he just recently made that statement in Uganda, which actually does sound like a supervillain giving away his plan about how he solved the universal, whatever, grand levitation equation or some shit and how he's using hydrogen bonds for unlimited power, and it'll be a drone, it'll be a plane, it'll clean plastics from the ocean. Oh yeah, the hydrogen proton. Right. I like his math. I'm pretty sure this doubles my money. Well, it's not your money to begin with, it's Terrence's money. It's all of our money. Read the book on stream and convert the chat to Terryology. Well, the book isn't like... As I understand it, the book is shit like this, where he starts talking about the Anunnaki sky people, and then just throwing formulas all over the place, but getting all of the formulas wrong. Like, endlessly wrong. So it's not exactly like a book to be read. It's more of like a look into lunacy. Like, written out. Maybe Terry was right. Can you imagine? Imagine 50 years from now, it turns out all of our math was wrong, and they look at Terrence Howard as like a prophet. They look at him as like a genius that wasn't appreciated during his time for his work on 1 × 1 = 2 and 0 not being real. Just fucking imagine that universe. In 500 years, we'll have a Terrence statue outside the MIT building. Well, by then we'll already have mastered the, the hydrogen proton technology. So we will have flying buildings by then. We won't even use statues, it'll be like hydrogen molds. I actually remember he went on... Was it Good Morning Today? Or it might have been The View. I think it was The View, to talk about Terryology.
Go ahead. Okay.
Now, a couple years ago, I did an article for the Rolling Stones, and they said I was crazy because I was telling them that the square root of 2 was a rational number. This is the proof that the square root of 2 is a rational number.
Well, you went to Oxford to present.
Fuck, now I see it.
About the point where 4 bubbles meet equally and oppositely.
Can I touch it?
Yes, and it's where 12 planes meet. This is an undiscovered geometry that I'm now making known to the world here on this show.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah!
Well, when I was at Oxford,
I love that geometry.
they were so upset. Our entire world economy is based on 1 × 1 = 1. So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proved, then 1 × 1 must equal more than 1. And to have the physical proof of it, that kind of shakes things up a bit.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Well, that's the Oxford.
Thank you.
I guess they don't like
I think The View, and like maybe just talk shows in general, are one of the most detrimental things to the American household that we've ever had. Second only to like Twitter and shit, I would say. It just platforms absolute insanity. It's wild. Like, it's baffling. They don't even bother to even, like, ask the most general questions like, well, how? Can you prove it? Are you sure? Really? They're just constantly sucking dick all the time for whatever guest they bring on. Blows my mind.
So here's my question for you, because we were talking about immigration before on the panel, and I'm a child of Italian-American grandparents my mother was born here.
Okay, well, I guess we're done with Terryology. They steered that topic away real quick. Tony Stark himself taught Terry that 1 × 1 = 2. Yeah, he should really credit Tony Stark somewhere in this paper, but I don't think he does. No respect. It's just such a fascinating rabbit hole. I implore anyone who likes wild, wacky shit to look into Terryology. I do believe it is patented. Let me double check.